You're already sweating when the order comes down the line. Not from heat, though the air reeks of sulfur and salt, but from compression. Too many bodies packed into too little space. Your ribs feel like they're being slowly pressed inward by an invisible vice. You can't step back. You can't step forward. You can only lean harder into the man in front of you and hope his legs don't buckle, because if he falls, the geometry collapses and so do you. The pass is barely wider than a modern road. Rock face on your left, rising sheer and pale, close enough that your shoulder brushes limestone when you breathe. On your right, the sea. Not the gentle blue of memory or poetry, but grey, restless, slapping stone with the indifference of a machine. Steam hisses from fissures underfoot. Hot springs leak sulphur into the air, stinging your eyes, coating the back of your throat with the taste of rot. This place smells like a wound that won't close. Ahead of you, the ground slopes slightly downward toward the Persian line. You don't see faces at first, just movement. A dark mass shifting, swelling, contracting, like a living organism testing the edges of its cage. Somewhere beyond that mass sits a king on a golden throne. Somewhere closer, men are about to die in ways they didn't imagine when they woke this morning. Your shield is already heavy. It always is, but today the weight is different. It presses into your left forearm, numbing the fingers. The leather strap bites into bone. Sweat pools under bronze, trickles down your spine, collects at the small of your back. You haven't fought yet, and already your body is negotiating with itself how much oxygen to spare, how much muscle tension you can afford before the real work begins. No one speaks. That's the first thing you notice. Not courage, not bravado. Silence. The kind that isn't peaceful but concentrated, like breath held underwater. You hear individual sounds instead. The creak of wood under pressure, the faint clink of bronze as shields settle into position, the shallow breathing of the man beside you. Somewhere down the line, someone swallows too loudly. Then the Persians start running. It begins as a ripple in the distance, a shift in colour, then sound catches up. Feet striking dirt, thousands of them, uneven, accelerating. Shouts rise, high and wild, meant to intimidate, meant to break something inside you before steel ever touches flesh. The noise funnels into the pass and amplifies, bouncing off stone, vibrating in your chest cavity. Your body reacts before your mind finishes processing. Knees bend, spine lowers, shield tilts forward, spear angles down, training takes over, years of repetition collapse into a single posture. Impact is not a moment, it is a duration. The first Persians hit the wall and stop, not because they choose to, but because there is nowhere to go. Men behind them keep running. Momentum transfers, bodies compress. You feel it through the shield, a dull crushing force like a car pressing into a barricade. The wicker shields in front of you flex, then split. You don't see faces yet. You see hands, fingers clutching wood, knuckles whitening, nails tearing. Your spear moves almost on its own. Forward, withdraw, forward again. The resistance is soft at first. Linen armour gives way with a wet resistance, like punching through soaked cloth. There is a sound, low, surprised, almost disappointed. You don't look down. Looking down breaks rhythm. The man behind you shoves. The man in front of you braces. The line breathes as one organism. This isn't fighting. It's pressure management. Persian weapons scrape against bronze and fail. Short spears glance off shields. Daggers stab upward, searching for gaps that aren't there. The shield wall holds because it was designed to. Each man covers the next. Individual survival is irrelevant. Structural integrity is everything. You feel blows through the shield, sharp jolts that travel into bone, but none penetrate. The physics are wrong for them. They are too light, too short, too early. Bodies start to pile. Not neatly, not ceremoniously. They slump, twist, slide underfoot. The ground changes texture. Dirt becomes slick. You adjust your stance without thinking, widening your feet, leaning forward, using the shield to push dead weight aside. A corpse jams against your greave. Another folds at the waist and collapses backward, carried by the press of men who don't yet understand they're running into a wall that doesn't move. Breath becomes precious. Each inhale is shallow, stolen. The air is thick now. Blood, sweat, sulfur, fear. Your forearms burn, your shoulders shake. Somewhere to your right, a spear snaps with a sharp crack. The man switches weapons instantly, drawing the short sword at his hip, stepping forward into the gap without breaking the line. The machine compensates. Time stretches and compresses. You don't know how long it's been, minutes, hours. The sun shifts slightly. Shadows crawl. The Persian shouts lose coherence, turning from confident roars into fragmented screams. Some men try to pull back, but the mass behind them won't allow it. They die facing you because retreat requires space, and space doesn't exist here. At some point you realize something unsettling. You're not angry. There is no hatred in the movement of your arm. No joy, no panic, just repetition. Extend, thrust, withdraw, step, brace. The work is intimate but impersonal. Faces flash into view only briefly. Wide eyes, open mouths, confusion flickering just before impact. Then they're gone, replaced by the next body pressing forward. This is what discipline feels like from the inside. The suppression of instinct in favor of geometry. When the first wave finally breaks, it doesn't announce itself. There's no signal, no cheer. The pressure simply lessens. The mass in front of you thins. Men stumble backward over bodies they can't see because there are too many. The noise drops from a roar to a low animal moan. You don't chase. Chasing breaks the wall. You hold. Your arms tremble now that the immediate force is gone. Blood runs down the spear shaft, sticky, warm. You wipe nothing. There's no point. Sweat stings your eyes. Your mouth tastes like metal. Behind you, the line rotates. You step back, legs protesting, and another man takes your place at the front, fresh, breathing hard but intact. You lean against the rock for half a heartbeat, sucking air, trying not to slide down the stone. Your hands shake. That's normal. Adrenaline has nowhere to go yet. Across the pass, the Persians regroup. You see them more clearly now. Not monsters, not faceless hordes. Men, exhausted already. Officers shouting, gesturing with whips, trying to reimpose order on something that just discovered it can bleed. In the distance, standards shift. Something changes in their formation. The next wave moves differently, slower, heavier, controlled. You hear it before you see it. The synchronized footfall, the eerie absence of shouting. 10,000 men advancing with measured steps, faces partially hidden, eyes fixed. Gold glints beneath fabric. Better armor, better discipline. The immortals. The man who steps into your place at the front swallows once and sets his feet. You tighten the strap on your shield. Your arms ache. Your throat is raw. Somewhere inside you, a simple calculation runs without emotion. Muscle mass versus time. Oxygen versus exertion. How long this body can function before it fails. The pass narrows your world again. Rock, sea, shields, spears. The immortals hit the wall, and the wall does not move. Not yet. 41E539F466, 4420, 43D0, 9FF3, AA604. You wake before dawn because your body never really slept. It only shut down in fragments. Muscles locked, jaw clenched, mind hovering just above unconsciousness, ready to snap awake at the smallest sound. The stone beneath you is cold now, stealing heat through skin and armor. When you sit up, your back screams in protest. Every joint feels swollen, overused, older than it was yesterday. Around you, men rise silently. No horns, no orders shouted, just the soft scrape of bronze, the hiss of breath through cracked lips, the dull intelligence of bodies preparing to be used again. The air has changed. Overnight mist clings to the pass, thick and damp, muting distance. The sulfur smell is sharper in the cold, burning the sinuses. Somewhere below, the sea keeps its rhythm, uncaring. Somewhere ahead, the Persians are awake too. You drink. Not enough. There was never enough water here. The hot springs poison most of it. What you have is rationed, shared mouth to mouth, metal cup to metal cup. It tastes faintly of blood and copper. No one complains. Complaining wastes energy. By the time the sun clears the ridge, the immortals are already moving. They advance with discipline that feels heavier than yesterday's chaos. This is not a flood, it's a press. Shields overlap, spears angle forward, their officers stay close, not behind. You can see it in how the men move. Less panic, more intent. These soldiers know how to kill without shouting about it. The first collision is quieter. That's what surprises you. No wild screaming, no stampede, just the deep, brutal sound of mass meeting mass. Shield rims bite into wicker. Spears scrape iron scales. The force transfers into your arms like an electrical shock. You brace. You lean. The man behind you leans harder. Breath is crushed out of your chest, and you take it back in short, panicked pulls through your nose. The immortals are closer fighters. They push into gaps that don't exist. Hands grab spear shafts and don't let go. You feel resistance on your weapon, weight, intention. Someone is pulling it down. You twist, jerk, step forward, driving the point blindly. Something gives. The resistance vanishes. They bleed differently. Heavier armor means slower deaths. Spears glance, bite, slide. You have to aim now. Throats, faces, the narrow space under the arm. It takes focus. Precision costs time, and time is the one resource you don't have much of. Your forearms start to burn within minutes. Acid builds. Grip strength fades. You shift your hands on the shaft, fighting numbness. Sweat returns despite the cold, soaking the padding under bronze. Your vision tunnels, not from fear but from oxygen debt. Every breath feels insufficient. Then the line shudders, not breaks, shudders. A ripple of movement passes down the Spartan front. One step back, then another, intentional, controlled. You feel it through the shield before your mind catches up. Retreat. The most dangerous maneuver a soldier can perform. Your instincts scream, no. Retreat exposes your back. Retreat invites pursuit. Retreat is how men die. But you retreat anyway. You step back, shield high, spear angled low, trusting the timing drilled into your bones since boyhood. The immortals surge forward, exactly as expected. Their formation loosens. They smell victory. Discipline fractures under adrenaline. Men shout now. They run. You hear the signal before you see it. A sharp cry. A sound cut short. The line stops. In the same heartbeat, it turns. You pivot on your heel, shield snapping back into position, spear coming up and forward as one with 100 others. The immortals, mid-stride, cannot stop. Momentum betrays them. They crash into waiting points. This time the deaths are violent and sudden. Bodies impale themselves. Men slam into shields with their own forward force multiplied. Spears punch through armor at close range, driven by legs and backs and the weight of the formation behind you. Blood sprays. Someone screams and is gone. The trap closes again. It happens more than once. Each time the immortals lose more men. Each time their confidence drains further. You see it in their eyes when they come close enough. Shock, disbelief, the dawning realization that elite status doesn't override physics, but it costs you too. By midday your shoulders feel partially detached. The muscles tremble uncontrollably. Hands cramp around wood slick with gore. Your calves twitch when you stand still, threatening to fold. You rotate out of the front line and nearly collapse against the rock, gasping like a beached animal. There is no triumph here, only attrition. The dead are everywhere now. The pass has become a corridor of bodies, Persian corpses layered thick enough to alter footing. Men slip, ankles twist. A wrong step could mean falling, and falling means disappearing under the press. The immortals finally pull back, not in panic, in calculation. Across the way you see officers gesturing sharply. Lines reform, whips crack. Not in rage, but correction. They are adapting, learning. That terrifies you more than the shouting did. As the light fades, a strange quiet settles again. No attack comes. You clean your blade mechanically, scraping gore against stone. You don't look at faces. You focus on tasks, tightening straps, checking dents, flexing fingers to keep them from locking. Someone nearby vomits. Someone else laughs once, short and sharp, then stops. Night falls hard. Fires bloom across the Persian plain. a sea of orange points stretching beyond vision. Too many to count, each one a reminder of scale, of time pressing in the wrong direction. You eat dried grain, tough meat. Your jaw aches with every chew. Swallowing feels like dragging sandpaper down your throat. You force it anyway. Calories are fuel. Sentiment is useless. Sleep tries to claim you again, but something feels wrong. The air is too still. Somewhere above the pass, in the darkness where trees cling to the mountain, there is movement you cannot see. A sound you almost mistake for wind. Almost leaves crunch. Not one pair of feet. Many. The sound rolls through the forest like a low tide reversing direction. Subtle, persistent, unnatural in its volume. Too heavy to be animals. Too organized to be chance. You sit up, heart rate spiking despite exhaustion. Others hear it too. Heads turn. Eyes search the blackness above the cliffs. No torches yet. No horns. Just that sound. Thousands of feet disturbing dry leaves in unison. A runner stumbles into camp, breath ragged, face pale in the firelight. Words spill out broken, urgent. You don't need all of them. One is enough. Behind. The word lands heavier than any blow you've taken. The pass was a shield because it was narrow, because it was forward-facing, because nothing could come around it. You built your survival on that assumption, layer by layer, spear thrust by spear thrust. Now the geometry has changed. If the enemy is behind you, the wall becomes a cage. No one panics. Panic wastes time. Orders move fast and quiet. Allies are told to prepare to leave before dawn. Not a retreat, an extraction. Preserve what can still be used. The math is brutal and clear. You will not be leaving. Not because of courage, because of law, because of role, because some positions exist only to absorb impact until they fail completely. You lie back down, armor still on, spear within reach. Sleep does not come this time. Your body hums with fatigue so deep it feels like gravity has increased. Thoughts slow, emotions flatten. Somewhere above you, the crunching continues. By morning, the pass will close from both ends. You listen to the sound until it becomes part of your breathing, and then you wait. Morning does not arrive. It seeps in. Grey light leaks into the pass like contaminated water, revealing what the dark allowed you to ignore. Bodies stiffened where they fell. Blood turned brown, tacky, clinging to sandals and greaves. The air is colder than it should be, heavy with the smell of iron and decay. You breathe through your mouth and regret it. You know before anyone tells you, the mountain path is gone, not collapsed, taken, occupied. The sound you heard in the night has resolved into certainty. The Persians are behind you now, descending in measured silence, closing the distance that once meant safety. The pass that protected you has become a narrowing throat. Orders move through the line without ceremony. Allies are leaving, not fleeing, being released. You watch men you fought beside yesterday pack what little they can carry. They avoid your eyes, not out of shame, out of understanding. Everyone here knows the arithmetic. You don't help them pack. Your hands are already busy tightening straps you won't loosen again. The space feels emptier as they go. Not quieter, emptier. The absence of bodies changes acoustics. Sound travels differently. Your own breathing feels too loud, too exposed. Some men stay. Not many. Enough. They line up beside you without speeches, without drama. Farmers, craftsmen, men with softer hands and eyes that have seen less. They stand the same way you do, shoulders squared, weapons ready, trying to align their fear with yours. Someone laughs again. It cuts off quickly. You eat because you're told to eat. Grain scratches your throat. Fat sits heavy in your stomach. Your body doesn't want food anymore. It wants rest. It will not get it. The decision comes fast. You will not wait for them to finish the trap. Waiting means arrows. Waiting means being reduced without resistance. Waiting means dying as a target instead of a problem. You move forward. Leaving the narrowest point feels wrong immediately. The space opens just enough to let the enemy use more of themselves. More blades. More mass. But that's the point now. You're no longer trying to stop them. You're trying to wound them deeply enough that the memory lasts. You advance at a jog that becomes a run. The collision is chaos. There is no wall anymore, no clean rhythm of spear and shield. Lines dissolve on contact. You slam into bodies and they slam back. Shields crack. Weapons snag. Men trip over the dead and don't get back up. This is not geometry. This is attrition. You stab and feel resistance. Bone this time. The spear doesn't come free cleanly. You plant a foot on a chest and wrench it loose, tearing something wet. Someone crashes into your side. Your shield absorbs most of it, but pain flares through your ribs. You grunt and keep moving. Noise overwhelms thought, shouting in languages you don't understand. The rasp of breath through broken teeth. Metal ringing against metal in uneven bursts. The sea to your right is invisible now, but you hear it louder than ever, waves smashing rock in perfect indifference to the slaughter meters away. Time fractures again. You fight in moments, a face, a blade, a shove, then another. You lose track of how many times you strike. Numbers blur. Your arms feel hollow, as if muscle has been scooped out and replaced with fire. Somewhere nearby, a man you recognize goes down. You don't see how. Just the absence where he was, a gap that closes instantly as bodies surge. There is no retrieval now, no formation to protect the fallen. Death is final and unremarked. Then something shifts. A pressure wave ripples outward from a single point like a stone dropped into water. Shouts rise, different now, urgent, commanded. A figure falls near the centre. For half a heartbeat, the world narrows to that body. You don't hear the name spoken. You don't need to. You feel it in the way the men around you react. Not with panic, but with focus sharpened to a blade. Movement accelerates toward that spot, violence concentrating like heat. You fight your way closer, shield first, hacking, shoving, ignoring the pain, screaming from your left side. You see him then, on the ground, armor dented, blood dark against dust. Still, there is no time for grief. Hands grab. You grab back. The fight becomes feral, not for ground, not for advantage, for possession. Bodies pile in, clawing, stabbing, dragging. You lose your spear here. It snaps or is torn away. You don't know which. Your sword is in your hand suddenly, short and brutal, built for this distance. The struggle is blind and vicious. You strike at shapes. You feel resistance give under your blade. You feel something hit your helmet hard enough to ring your skull. Stars explode behind your eyes. You shake your head and swing again. Somehow, impossibly, the body is pulled free, dragged back through the press, shielded by men who are bleeding from a dozen places, who move on will alone and muscle memory. You backpedal with them, cutting at anything that gets close, until the ground slopes upward and the press loosens slightly. Breathing becomes agony. Your chest burns. Your vision pulses. You taste blood. Yours or someone else's, it doesn't matter. Weapons fail. Spear shafts are gone. Swords chip, bend, snap. You see a man beating another with the rim of his shield again and again until neither moves. You see hands around throats, fingers digging for purchase between armor plates. You hear teeth scrape bone. This is the last currency. The Persians hesitate now, not because they lack numbers, but because proximity has become expensive. Their advantage requires distance. They are losing men too fast at arm's length. The circle tightens. You are pushed back step by step toward a low rise of stone, a final piece of elevation, a place to stand, to end. When the enemy stops advancing, you know what comes next. You look up. The sky's pale, empty. For a moment, then it darkens. The sound arrives first, a soft hiss that grows into a roar. Thousands of arrows climb and fall, blotting light, turning air into a medium of death. There is no formation to brace now, no shield wall to absorb it all. You crouch instinctively, raising what protection you have left. The first impacts are sharp, percussive. Arrows punch into flesh, into wood, into earth. Men jerk and collapse under the sudden weight. There is no charge left in your body, only endurance. You huddle closer to the others, shoulder to shoulder, as the storm continues. You feel impacts thud into your shield. One punches through padding and bites into muscle. Pain flares white and distant. The noise fades slowly. not because it stops, but because you do. The last thing you feel is weight, bodies pressing, the ground hard against your side, the smell of blood and sulphur and wet iron filling everything. The pass opens behind you, but not for you. You don't die when the last arrow hits, not immediately. Consciousness lingers like a bad habit, refusing to release its grip even when the body has already begun to fail. Sound returns first, muffled and distant, as if you're hearing it through packed earth. Your chest doesn't rise anymore, but the reflex to breathe fires anyway, a useless command issued to organs that no longer answer. The ground beneath you is warm, not from the sun, from bodies. You're aware of weight pressing from all sides, limbs, shields, torsos stacked without order. Someone's armor digs into your thigh. Another man's hair is plastered across your cheek, stiff with blood. The smell is overwhelming now, thick enough to feel textured. Iron, feces, hot stone, fear that has nowhere left to go. Above the pile, movement continues. Boots crunch over bone. Orders are shouted, then repeated louder. A language you don't speak but now understand anyway. The battle is over. The work is beginning. Hands grab your shoulder and roll you. Pain flares, sharp and sudden, enough to snap the world into focus for a final moment. Your vision tilts upward. Sky, pale blue, empty again. The arrow storm has passed. Men loom into view. Persian infantry, faces tight with exhaustion, and something else that looks uncomfortably like relief. A spear point nudges your chest. No reaction. Another jab. Harder. The metal presses into flesh that does not pull away. Satisfied, the soldier moves on. There are too many bodies to check carefully. Efficiency has returned. You're left where you lie. Time loses shape. Sunlight shifts. Shadows stretch and shorten. Flies arrive in waves, drawn by heat and scent. They crawl into mouths, eyes, wounds, doing what they have always done. No one stops them. At some point you're aware of voices nearby, closer than the general noise of cleanup, more deliberate, command level. You don't know how you know this. You just do. The body beside you is rolled with care, more care than anything else you've seen today. Men kneel, gestures sharpen, a brief argument. Then a blade flashes. You don't see the act itself, but you hear it. The sound is unmistakable. A wet, resistant chop, followed by a dull impact against the earth. Someone exhales sharply. Another laughs once, nervous and short. You understand. Even now, the body you fought to retrieve has been found again. This time, there will be no second attempt. You feel nothing when they move you again, dragging you aside to clear space. Your arm flops with the weight of an object no longer attached to intent. The pile thins as corpses are sorted, some stripped, some left, some stacked for burning, others for burial. Across the pass, trenches are being dug, not for you, for them. Thousands of Persian dead are being hidden quickly, efficiently, earth thrown back over flesh before the full army can see what the cost actually was. Victory needs a narrative. The truth is too heavy to carry forward. The living march through the pass you held. They do it carefully at first, stepping over bodies, avoiding eye contact with the dead, then faster. The road is open now. Geography has been defeated, even if it demanded blood as payment. A figure on horseback stops nearby. You don't see his face clearly, but you feel the pause ripple outward. Men straighten. Voices drop. This is the center of gravity. The axis everything else orbits. Someone speaks. Others listen. Then the order is given. More shouting. A small group detaches, moving back toward the body that was handled with care earlier. You catch a glimpse this time. A head lifted by the hair, blood trailing, face slack in death. It is raised high. Not as honor, as proof. The king rides on. You don't follow, but awareness stretches just far enough to register the shift in the world's direction. South. Toward cities that still breathe, toward people who do not yet know what is coming. Eventually the pass grows quiet. The army is gone, the fires burn down, cleanup ends when effort outweighs necessity. What remains is left to rot. Rain comes later. It is light at first, then steady. It darkens the ground, loosens blood from stone, carries fragments downhill toward the sea. Arrowheads glint briefly before mud claims them. The sulphur springs keep steaming, indifferent witnesses. Your body cools. The strange clarity fades. Thought fragments break apart. Memory loses edges. There is no tunnel of light, no revelation, just systems shutting down one by one, like a city after siege when the water finally runs out. Long after you're gone, others will come. They will step carefully through the pass, avoiding places where the ground still feels wrong underfoot. They will find bones where armor once was. They will gather fragments and try to arrange meaning around them. A marker will be placed. Words will be carved. They will be simple, functional, obedient. No mention of fear, or thirst, or the way your hands shook when you thought no one could see. No mention of the allies who stayed without obligation, or the ones who left carrying the weight of survival forward. Just law, just duty, just the idea that this place consumed bodies for a reason. Far away, the war will continue. Cities will burn, fleets will clash. Men will die who never heard of this narrow strip of land until it was already legend. Others will live because time was bought here, measured out in hours and muscle fibre and broken spears. None of that belongs to you anymore. You remain here, in the dirt, in the stone, in the soil compacted by boots and soaked by rain. Reduced to matter that will be stepped on, built over, forgotten, rediscovered. The past does not remember names, it only remembers pressure, and for 3 days, it held. The war moves on without you, it always does. Weeks later, men who never smelled sulphur or felt a shield tremble under their arm, stand on decks of ships packed too tight for comfort. Salt spray cuts their faces raw. Oars dip and rise until shoulders go numb. Orders crack across water instead of stone. The sea becomes another corridor where geometry decides who lives. The delay bought at the pass shows itself in absence. Cities emptied before the fire arrived. Children moved inland, grain hidden, ships gathered instead of scattered. Time, stolen in hours and bodies, is spent like currency by people who never saw your face. When fleets collide, the Persians discover a different kind of confinement. Narrow straits replace narrow roads. Ships jam and splinter. Men drown tangled in rigging. Armor dragging them down. Lungs burning as fiercely as yours did on land. Discipline breaks again. Not from weakness, but from panic in spaces too small for empires. Farther north, another army gathers. Older men, younger sons. The ones who are not allowed to march with you because the law had rules about timing, about festivals, about restraint. Now the law opens its grip. Thousands move as one, not in haste, but with certainty. They do not hurry. They know the enemy bleeds. When steel meets steel again on open ground, the cost is still high. War never discounts its price, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. The invaders fight with memory now, with caution, with the understanding that numbers can disappear frighteningly fast when discipline meets terrain. Eventually the invasion ends, not in triumph, in exhaustion. Men go home carrying scars that never stop aching when the weather shifts. Others don't go home at all. The fields grow quiet again. Cities rebuild walls, then markets, then forget how close they came to being erased. Years pass. Stone replaces wood. Roads widen. The sea creeps back as rivers push sediment outward, reshaping the land until the pass is no longer as narrow as it was when it mattered most. Geography relaxes. Memory does not. A marker stands where the bodies were thickest. Travellers stop there sometimes, soldiers mostly. They read the words carved into stone, short, clean, unemotional. They stand in silence, feeling something they can't quite name, not inspiration, not pride, a pressure, a question without language. The ground beneath their feet is ordinary now, hard-packed earth, grass, insects, nothing to suggest how it once swallowed men whole. But pressure leaves traces. Dig there centuries later and iron answers. Arrowheads bent on impact. Spear tips snapped short. Bronze fragments worn thin by contact with bone and shield. The soil itself darker, heavier, remembering what was mixed into it. Historians argue over numbers. They debate logistics, timelines, motives. They draw lines on maps and calculate distances, arguing about what mattered more, discipline, terrain, leadership, chance. They will never agree completely. That's not how distance works. Distance smooths edges. Stories sharpen them again, but in different ways. The sharpness becomes symbolic, clean, manageable, heroic. You're not heroic. You were tired. You were afraid. You were efficient because inefficiency meant death. You stayed because staying was the only option that aligned with who you were allowed to be. There was no purity in it, just consistency. That part rarely survives retelling. Statues rise later, bronze figures staring forward, muscles defined, posture perfect. They face the wrong direction sometimes, toward the enemy that no longer exists, or toward a future that has already moved on. Tourists take pictures. Children climb the base and ask questions that adults answer with phrases that feel too big for the moment. Come and take them. The words last because they are simple, but they are misunderstood. They were not a challenge shouted from safety. They were not bravado. They were logistics, a statement of physical fact. If you want what is behind this line, you will have to move it one body at a time. There is no other route. That truth never expires. Every generation finds a new pass, a new narrowing, a place where choices compress and time becomes hostile. The details change, weapons change, languages change, but the sensation, the pressure, the exhaustion, the clarity that comes when options disappear, remains intact. Most people will never feel it. A few will. They will recognize it instantly, even without the smell of sulfur or the sound of surf. They will feel it in the tightening of the chest, the narrowing of thought, the way fear sharpens into function when escape is removed from the equation. Those people rarely speak about it afterward. They don't need to. The past still exists, even if the road has widened and the sea has pulled back. It exists anywhere space constricts and time runs out. Anywhere bodies become the only thing holding a line in place. You're already gone by the time meaning is assigned to you. That may be the cleanest outcome war ever offers. No ownership, no legacy to manage, no explanation required. Just matter returned to ground, pressure released, and a brief, measurable delay that allowed something else to survive. The world continues because of delays like that. It always has, and it never notices them until long after the bodies have cooled.